Today, on an older video, I received a request for this video, a video on the topic of how to start a campaign, and specifically how to start a campaign for Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing. This video will answer that question, at least how I do it, and I'll keep my examples restricted to Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing, although I think you'll find that some of the things that get suggested are broadly applicable to many different games out there, at least within a certain tradition of play. For sometimes similar, sometimes divergent advice, there's another playlist on my channel about simulation and immersion. And that goes from 0 all the way to the first session of all the things that you could do to produce a very specific feel of play, encourage a very specific culture of play, and so if this video doesn't quite address what you're looking for, consider looking at that. It might not answer your questions either, but it'll give you more things to think about and a different framework to assess things from. This video is going to look at campaign creation for Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars from two different starting points, but within the tradition of play which is best supported by Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing. The 3-year campaign we talk about on this channel all the time, well, it really started from images like this. This was something that I wanted to have happen in the campaign. I wanted there to be Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters, and I wanted to be escaping in a junky old freighter that was a little bit more than it seemed to look at. But how do you get from deciding to play the game to a scene like this one? That's a legitimate question. How can you be sure that a scene like this is something that can be handled by a group of characters you've just freshly created in the character creation process? Or how can you be sure it's not too easy? For a new game master or someone at least new to the system, there are questions that you can have. What is a legitimate starting point for a campaign? And then, of course, there's the question of planning and the temptation to plan and plan and plan and plan. And I'm not even talking about planning what will happen. I'm talking about places to go, people to meet, things to encounter, and so on and so forth. How can I plan for my campaign? Let's talk about it. I think the first thing that any new Star Wars game master needs to realize is that the dice are going to shape events more than any other single factor. How you interpret the roles will work in concert with the results you get in those roles to create that Star Wars feel. They're going to interject moments of despair and moments of triumph, moments of great success and moments of stressing threat. So with that in mind, from a certain point of view, the idea of preparing and writing out a series of events, scripting a storyline that you hope will be followed, may be less efficient than it would be in other games. It may be more efficient to focus on getting familiar with the templates of types of characters that they might meet, and working on your descriptive ability for what things look like and what kind of environments might be encountered. Work on your knowledge of relationships between groups that have already been established as setting in the Star Wars galaxy. Then, no matter what gets thrown at you, you are ready to respond. Not merely react, but respond in a way that will flow well with the dice and what the players are trying to do with their characters. This is a kind of harmony inside the setting where everyone can draw on their knowledge of Star Wars to contribute, and a Star Wars story can be created. One aspect of the core books, which I feel is routinely overlooked, especially by newcomers to the system, is that they are campaign blueprints. If you pick up Edge of the Empire, it's a campaign blueprint or framework for launching your own campaign at the edge of the empire dealing with those types of characters. It gives you everything you need. It bounds your choices so that you can easily sit down with your group of players and say, hey, look at this. Let's play a campaign like this. Now you're going to make your own changes to it. You're going to add things and subtract things. You might want to borrow some things from some of the other source books that FFG has released, or some of the stuff that still exists from West End Games or wherever. But why are there 3 core books? For this express purpose. You want to tell a rebel pilots against TIE fighter pilots kind of, World War II dogfighter based campaign, pick up Age of Rebellion. Your group is really excited about the Force and you'd like to discover your own lightsaber crystals and build lightsabers and learn more about the Force and this sort of thing, then pick up Force and Destiny. Or you want to survive as the Empire, the Galactic Empire is gradually expanding out from the core and you keep getting pushed outward just trying to get by, Edge of the Empire is your game. If you're looking for the long-form, open-ended campaign, pick up Edge of the Empire. If you're looking for mission-based play, pick up Age of Rebellion. If you're looking for more of a narrowly focused zero-to-hero discovery, mystery, quest-based type of play, pick up Force and Destiny. All the elements, the blueprints of Campaign Foundation are found inside those core books. And yes, you can mix and match, but you don't have to. If you have that clear idea, you pick it up. Plus, they also serve, as I mentioned in my review, as an example of starting a campaign. Right? These are the types of things you need to think about, right, in order to give players a good amount of choice before the campaign launches. And this is the point that brings us to my 2 starting stances for a campaign. And they're really simple. 1, the game master decides what kind of campaign they would like to run and informs the players that they would like to do that, and would they like to play in it or not. The second stance is to, again, assess the amount of interest, but rather than telling them what kind of environment they're playing in, they instead invite them to create characters and work with the group to turn those characters into the basis of a campaign. So, let's review. I'm advocating not scripting events for your campaign, or even for your individual sessions. We'll get back to that. And I'm not advocating for one or the other of, but you can't do both, telling your crew what it is you'd like to run, such as, I want to run a bounty hunters campaign where you are all bounty hunters on the edge of the Empire. Versus, I'd like to play Star Wars, Age of Rebellion. Right? Take a look at the careers that are available in Age of Rebellion and get back to me with your characters, and then we'll decide what kind of campaign we're going to play in. Right? So those 2 approaches, coupled with the concept of being familiar with people, places, and things, not first this happens, then this happens, then this other thing happens. On the surface, these 2 standpoints for campaign creation can seem very similar. On the one hand, we have a game master saying, we're going to play Edge of the Empire, and I'd like all of you to create bounty hunters. And on the other hand, we have a game master saying, I'd like to play Age of Rebellion. Please select a career from the ones that are available in Age of Rebellion. They both have restricted choice, and for any campaign, at some point or another, you're going to have to be able to say, no, not that, and yes, this is cool, and great, let's work with that, and how can we combine these things, and what do you think about this? You'll have to be able to work with and collaborate with your crew, and because of some details on this hand not meshing well with some details on this hand, you're going to have to be able to say, no, but, or yes, and, or yes, but, in order to make a good starting point. Boundaries are necessary. Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and Force and Destiny are all examples of how to set up some boundaries. Boundaries that you will then further narrow or extend and widen as fits exactly what it is that you are trying to do with your group. As is described in one of the points in the Explaining Your Game video, it's time, before you do any preparation and planning, no matter which of these stances you take, it's time to talk to the group about Star Wars. And this is a conversation purely about Star Wars. What is it that they love about it? What is it that they hate about it? What are the films that they like the most, the least? Are there elements from the old expanded universe that they really, really, really want to have included in your table's version of Star Wars? And like was discussed in the question of canon video, how much of what has been represented on film or in book or in comic or whatever it is that you're going to draw from is actually true? One of the conceits that I like to use when running Star Wars and Star Trek is that things like the films, these are unreliable narration. These are they're told from a certain point of view. Maybe the actual truth was different. That is the window that allows my particular table to create its own adventures and stories and moralities and outcomes inside the universe, while honoring the universe it came from and honoring the participation of those people who are playing in it. In practical terms, that conversation is going to be about elements of canon, but don't let it just fall to that level. Talk about favorite moments, relationships, risks, fears, overarching themes, what kind of involvement they want to have with the overt, in-your-face themes of Star Wars. Somebody has told a long history of events, a struggle between good and evil, the rise of evil in the form of the Galactic Empire, and then, well, how much of that does your group want to be involved with? Is that going to be happening in the background? Or are they going to be up there causing major changes in it with the heroes of the franchise? That's the conversation to have. Once that conversation is done, now it's on the Game Master. The Game Master has to start working, getting ready for session number 1. They'll have the characters in hand. They'll look at those characters and all the aspects that went into building them. Those are very strong signals from the players about exactly what they want to be able to do. Now, regardless of which starting stance you have taken, that will be true. If you told them you're all going to be smugglers, or if you told them choose, a career from Force and Destiny, the way they build their characters is a strong signal to you about what they want to be able to do inside the campaign. Take that, add that to what they've told you about their love of Star Wars, their interest in which aspects of Star Wars, and begin to make stew. Delicious Star Wars stew. Let it boil for a bit. Give yourself some time. Let it sit there and begin to create the basis of this particular Star Wars galaxy. Yours. Star Wars characters have motivations. You need to know what they are. You need to know what they are and how they interact inside the group and how they push and pull on the group inside your version of the Star Wars galaxy. They will help you figure out what kind of people to put around them, what kind of places to put them in, and what kind of things to lure their attention or create boundaries on their desire for action. Likewise, the characters will have obligation or duty or morality. In the same way, how do these elements of character interact inside the group, and how do they connect them to the galaxy around them? These traits have to matter. Their motivations need to be pushing them into the heart of the things that everybody wants to be doing in the campaign, in the places and among the people that you are creating as the game master. Obligations have to matter. The people to whom these are owed need to be the people that the characters want to interact with or get away from. Right? It needs to be vital. Duty, likewise. The things that the player wants to do with that character need to connect completely to their duty. And morality. Is the player interested in portraying both sides, right, of their conflicted center? Ultimately, campaign preparation revolves around taking all of these ideas from the characters, all of these ideas from the setting material, mixing them together to create the bricks of the foundation for the campaign. It's from these ideas that your campaign will grow. Now, like I said at the beginning, I don't advocate planning out the whole campaign. I advocate creating a beginning, and I advocate populating it with interesting non-player characters that, through interaction with the player characters, will create the events of your story. And I advocate putting interesting places that those characters will want to visit, and having plots and agendas going on in the background by characters that your player characters will love or hate. This will add fuel to that fire. What is it that they desire? What is it that they fear? This is from what campaigns are built. Now, to zoom in on these stances, you as the game master have put Edge of the Empire down on the table and say, I want you all to be bounty hunters in an Edge of the Empire game. I've got this great idea. That means that your idea is the spark of the starting point, right? Bounty hunters, Edge of the Empire. You want to involve all the aspects of bounty hunter play, accepting contracts, investigation, hunting people down, capturing people, and bringing them back to justice, or, disintegrating them, whichever is required. That's the kind of game you want. Maybe it will be long-term, maybe it will be short-term. Maybe you'll discover in play if it's going to be short-term or long-term. All of those things can be ambiguous. You might start out with, let's play for a month. Let's do 4 sessions of this and then see what strikes us. The characters might become so much fun that the players fall in love with them, and the game will continue and become a lengthy campaign. Who knows? Don't box yourself in. But if you have this clear thing in mind, I want to do a campaign of starfighter pilots in Age of Rebellion. I want to do a holdouts of survivors from Order 66 campaign, and let's see how we can do with that. Or let's have a bunch of smugglers on a ship just trying to get by campaign. Or gamblers on a space station. Or techs working in a secretive rebel base. Or a bunch of children who've been captured by the Empire because they are force sensitive, and what plans await them in the grip of that evil organization, or the possibilities within the framework of Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and Force and Destiny are countless. Give yourself time to be inspired, suggest that inspiration to the players, have clear boundaries for them to maximize their creativity, receive their characters, and then create the opening moments of the campaign. Something memorable. From the other stance, you know which game you want to play, and you know with whom you want to play it, but you're open. So you ask them to create characters. And then you all sit down together and you look at the linkages between those characters, or the possible linkages, or the way things could be tweaked to bring them together into a cohesive whole. Why are these people together? And then you go away and build the campaign around what it is that those people are trying to do. Maybe it will go on for a long time. Maybe it will suffer a total party kill in the first 5 minutes. You have no way to know. But through the tools of reaction, responding, pushing, pulling, misdirecting, and directing, this campaign will come to life. The last step is personal preparation. You are the game master. You have to be comfortable doing all of the things that you now have it in your mind that this campaign is going to be about. Take the book for the game that you're planning to run and read it from start to finish, from beginning to end. Each of the core books is divided up into very specific and well-organized chapters. Each of these chapters is a signal to you of something you have to understand or prepare before play starts. You may be tempted to jump around inside the book. For example, you might have a lot of combat-capable characters, so you think, oh, I've got to really understand combat, so I'll start there. Don't. Don't give in to the temptation. Start at the beginning of the book, read all the way through to the end. Then, go through again. See what you understand. Things that seem confusing now, make note of them. Continue on through. Become familiar with where things are in the book and accept that looking in the book during play is going to be okay. Also accept that if you have specialists in your crew, this person is a ranged combat specialist, this person is a melee combat specialist, that person is a starfighter pilot, this person is a diplomat with a lot of persuasive abilities. Distribute understanding of those rules to them. They're responsible to know how they work. You're responsible for adjudicating what happens when they do their work. Create that sense of collaboration and group responsibility for understanding and enjoying the game, and the game has a better chance of surviving. In my experience, most people do not feel ready to run a new game that first time. But at the end of that first session, they have relaxed. It's not as bad as they thought it was going to be, and they've got some clear indications of which parts of the system they're still not clear about, and they have a better sense of the characters, so they have a greater idea of what's going to be a good thing to prepare for next time. Right? A specific character, an interesting location, a job contract, a complication, or whatever that might be. It's okay. It's a leap of faith. Jump in. So let's bring this to an end. Not all of us prepare exactly the same way, and you'll have to be the final arbiter of the best way for you to do that. And that might mean a little exploration. Some people come to the table with tons of notes. Some people come with none. Some people come with lists of names, lists of places, lists of hints, lists of character motivations, character obligations, and so on. Some come with just a notepad. Some come with tools and props, pictures, images, soundtracks, sound effects, critical hit and injury and damage cards, adversary cards, and the like. Some use none of that. Some people like to have dice for everyone. Some people want to share one dice app. Whatever works for you, that is incidental. That is entirely on you. What is it that will help you remember the system, the characters, the places, the things of interest? What is it that will inspire you or them? You may find over the course of a long campaign that all of this stuff will change. So, I hope this overview of campaign preparation has been helpful. At the beginning, I put up a list of videos that either are directly on this topic or touch on it in some way. You may find them helpful. Certainly a search on YouTube for this kind of video will turn up a lot of different advice for a lot of different games, some of which will be directly applicable, some of which might need some tweaking, and some of which might set off alarm bells in your head saying, whoa, that's really not for me. All of that is useful. Anyway, thanks for the question. Good luck with your campaign.